Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic, and welcome to today's special report, another one in the series of the bank runs and bank failures. Today's episode is entitled, of course, Bankster Takedown and God's Money. With me today is Polny. You can find him at gold2020forecast.com. Mr. Polny, how are you today? Welcome back to the show.
Great. Thank you. What a pleasure to be back here with you, Jean-Claude. You are a warrior. You don't stop. You keep plugging along no matter what they do to you. You just, you brush it off and you get back on the horse and you get going again. So compliments to you. You are a true warrior.
Well,
warrior for the truth.
Yes, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And as much as I keep getting back on a horse, sometimes my voice is not following. I've been doing all of these crazy shows this week, and my poor voice needs a rest. But still, there's all of this content to share with the audience members. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on this live interactive show. As with the rest of this series, folks, what we're going to do here today is start maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes to give you a little bit of context and behave here with the rules on YouTube. As you know, I just got a strike a couple of days ago, and then we'll move the conversation over to our Rumble feed. Let me bring the link to the Rumble feed to you guys as well here, just so you guys can go and join us there in about 10 minutes or so. Bo, this is, first of all, thank you for being on. You bring a very unique and distinctive perspective to everything that's going on. And for the audience members who've been following us here this week, of course, we started with this bank run issue at SVB. We had a very special guest on Sunday night trying to decode of this. Crazy times of ours. We had over 300,000 views already on this episode. This did get me in trouble also. Of course, I followed that up with even more trouble with Mr. Jim Willie on Monday, and of course, Bill Holter and Andy Scheckman yesterday. And so we're looking at this from all of these different perspectives, Bo, but what we're missing also is the analyst of time. And so I wanted to thank you all, first of all, for being on the show, and second of all, for bringing a very different and unique perspective to all of this. And I want to share with the audience members, again, the fact today that this show here on Beyond Mystic was always about bringing different points of views, and especially sometimes when we don't agree. Because at the end of the day, as we were just saying here in the pre-show, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to fight for humanity, for our freedom, and we're trying to build a bigger picture so that individually and collectively, we can take the better decisions for ourselves and for our families and for our loved ones. So a big thank you, Bo, for being on the show. Folks, I brought the link down to Bo's presentation for today. For those of you who have a QR code scan, if you want to take a picture of this, it'll bring you directly to Bo's presentation. I already put the PDF link in the live chat. I'll do that again now here in the YouTube video, as well as the Rumble feed. Bo, where do you want to start with this? It very much appears we can't get into the Trump stuff too much here on YouTube for now, but he did a speech this weekend, and he was talking about a final battle. And it very much seems like everything is coming to a head. Your poster here, of course, on your presentation suggests the same here. Bo, how do you want to put that into context for the audience here on YouTube before we move into the uncensored talk here on Rumble?
Well, regardless of all the noise that's going on in the media, because really all that is truly is noise. See, when I study timelines, to me, like I write in my newsletter, right? Cycles precede events. So you don't have the event and then and then the cycle occurs, right? What happens is the chart cycles, the patterns already foretell what's coming. So I know, for example, like for the past 6 months, I know a lot of your followers are involved in cryptocurrencies. You're involved in cryptocurrencies, right? So if my newsletter was kind of fascinating because for the past 6 months, we've nailed every single turn so far in cryptocurrencies. And we talk about that later on. But the point was, my newsletter basically said, there's going to be 2 massive up cycles. The first one starts in January. Boom, nailed it. And then the second one's going to start this Monday. Okay, well, look what happened. Okay, the point being is, and what I was trying to say is, the cycle basically foretelling that March starts an up cycle for cryptocurrencies, and we're going to have a very powerful move. And we're going to see new all-time highs very soon in cryptocurrencies, believe it or not. Because why? Because the financial system that you just saw on Friday is starting to blow up. See, what they're trying to do, they're trying to take control. It's all about taking control, because what are they trying to bring on? A one world. Okay.
Yep.
Bush talked about that. Okay. So they're trying to centralize everything. So if you take out all the smaller banks, okay, then what are you left with? the bigger banks, right? Who are controlled by who? The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. So if you go to my PDF deck, for example, if you look at page 3 on it, this is what's happening is biblical. Now, people may want to say, well, so like the better question, like we're on here, the show called Beyond Mystic, right? So actually, before we even kind of get into all this, a question I have, because I don't really understand much of what you do in terms of like the psychic and stuff. Like I really don't understand it much. But my question is, and I think it's just like, and if you can just give me like a good, like your best answer, what is tomorrow random? Like, so, meaning that the events that are happening tomorrow, have they been written for thousands of years, or are we kind of creating our own tomorrow? You see what I'm saying? So what would be your best answer on
that? My answer would be a little bit of both. I think we are on a very tight timeline. A lot of things have been forecasted. I think that on the individual level, we have some maneuverability and some free will, but of course we live in this scripted nature of a reality. And so I believe that there are a lot of things that are foretold or ordained or pre-established on our timeline in terms of a general direction, but it is up to human consciousness also. And we do have an impact when we all get together to change and skew that timeline for our benefit. And this is why the waking up process, and what you're doing, what I'm doing here, trying to wake up people, is so important, so that we're not a pinball in a pinball machine randomly going through all of these events, but that we could take charge of our own evolution. That's my answer, Bo. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. And I just want to have like a nice conversation, because I really want to see where you're coming with this, so we can kind of have a good discussion. Because the bottom line is, you have to. It's like I look at it as if tomorrow is already written, but I do agree with you that we all have individually free will. So that's the whole point of this, right? We can choose what side of the fence we want to sit on, just like of what's happening in the world right now, right? Everyone's basically picking sides here. Think about it, right? You got the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, like, we've got that on that slide right there. It's in the Bible, it's talked about, it's called Mystery Babylon. You got Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, Rockefellers, So all these people, and then that ties in with all the banking institutions and everything, and it's all about a control system, right?
Yeah.
And so they're digging in their heels that they're right, and they're going to push their one agenda, right? On the other hand, we, the people, don't want it, right? And so we simply are, we're choosing free will to not go in that direction. Just like, you chose free will to not get that in your arm, right? So it's a free will choice. But this is what's happening. So they're trying to push an agenda that, humanity doesn't want, but because they control the airways, which is what really evil is. Evil by definition will be Satan. And so they control the airways. And so they are small, but they are loud.
Right.
And we are many, and so they're afraid of us. And so, like you said, about what we're heading into. We are heading into what would be best described as a clash of the titans.
Right. And we are called, hold on a second there too, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to go back to that question you asked me, and also to add this comment. We are the silent majority. And even though the Trudeaus of the world want to tell us that we're the fringe minority, we're in fact the silent majority, but it's waking up. And we're seeing signs of this every day now on social media. Going back to the question of whether or not it's faded, in my understanding of things, where we're sitting now, Bo, it's kind of similar to the Bible, where Jesus was flipping the tables on the money changers.
Right.
I think we're at a critical point in time where a lot of this, by our own evolution, we had to go through this path. We had to have all of these demons show us the way so that we would wake up. But I think that humanity is at a crossroads now where we have the choice, and perhaps the first opportunity, to get out from under this Babylonian debt money magic system, as you call the control matrix, and we can take charge of our own future. I think that's the critical point, and that's why these shows are so important right now, as all of these events are hitting us 24/7 here. We have like 10 years of events in 2 days on the news cycles right now. It's absolutely crazy. So I think you're right. Like, we have the overall arcing theme of where humanity wants to go, but I think where we're at now is a critical time that perhaps we've never been before, or perhaps we haven't been at this point for many thousands of years. And this is where lies the biggest opportunity for humanity. So even though there's a lot of darkness out there, I see a big silver lining for humanity if we can all get together, wake up, understand that we have differences and different points of views, but that essentially we all want that same thing, which is that freedom. Bo.
Right. And I agree with you, but I'm gonna, like, the conversation today, I'm gonna show you examples of how things are not random. So individually, we have the free will to choose, again, what side of the tracks we sit on, right? Are we sitting on agreement with what these people are doing, or are we not in agreement and we're sitting on this side of the tracks, right? So I agree with everything you've said.
And are you willing to willingly take the mark of the beast?
Right. And so this is where the confusion comes in, right? So when I analyze time, like you bring up, the mark, right? See, is this stuff right here the mark, or is it not? See, and that's what people don't truly understand. And that's where kind of I come into studying the biblical timelines, applying that to present day, and looking at it on a big picture perspective. And so I can answer a lot of questions, that you might have or your viewers might have, but just to give you that, the feeling of hope, because that's really what we need. Because honestly, if you turn the TV, if you watch the news, it's hopeless, right? There is no hope. And you talk about a battle that's coming. You're right. We are heading into an absolute clash of the Titans. And what that means, truly what this means is, what you see there, you have to understand, for a fact, you've been doing this, Jean-Claude, probably longer or maybe equally as long as I've been doing this. We've been involved. If you've been involved in precious metals, gold and silver, you've been in, and I know you've been doing it for a long time. You're awake like I am, and you've been involved in this for a long, long time. Okay, and what you've come to realize is that everything, is a lie. That's really the essence of it, right? And so, clash of the Titans. What does that mean? It means that you've learned through all these years about the horrendous things that go on in the shadows. I don't need to say more than that, because those that are awake know what's going on. You've had enough people on your show discussing what these people do. Okay, it's about the blood. Okay, they do sick things that are sick, that are disgusting, and that we can't truly even comprehend how horrendous some of these things are that they do, because we don't even know, okay? And on top of what they've done, they've enslaved us all with a money system. Think about this. If you take $1 trillion, I just did this math this past weekend, take $1 trillion, that's a 1 with 12 zeros. Divide it, just Google, the US population. Okay, divided by the US population. Do you realize every $1 trillion that's created, Jean-Claude, we should get about $2,900 because that's a debt, right? And so they created out of thin air, just so when the markets crash in March of 2020, they created 7 trillion over the weekend, which means that every person in the United States should have received right about $20,000 for them creating that money out of thin air, because that's what we've been indebted to, right? So so that's called a separation. So when you read the Bible, there's a third seal of Revelation that talks about the scales of balance. And the example of that in the Bible is what happened to King Belshazzar, where we've all heard that saying, the writing on the wall.
Writings on the wall.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what it was Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. And then so he freaked out because you literally saw a hand come out and wrote on the wall. If this really happened, I want you to know that's an impossibility. So most of the things I'm going to bring up today are impossibilities, but they happened. Right. So if they happen, they're a miracle, right? But where does God operate? He operates in the miraculous, right? So things are coming that have happened in history and are coming upon this world that are miraculous. They're impossibilities, but you and I are going to watch them manifest in front of our eyes, because history says, if you study history, you will know the future. It's very simple. You can't know what's coming tomorrow if you don't look backwards. Okay? Because in the Bible, it's very clear. Ecclesiastes, that which has been will be again. And so there's things that these people have done. They've done horrendous things behind the shadows, kids and all kinds of stuff. Well, I don't even talk about it. Okay. Secondly, they've enslaved humanity with a financial system. When you create money out of thin air and you make someone believe it's money, and then you tell them they got to pay back that mortgage. A mortgage, by definition, Jean-Claude, is a death grip. Mortgages should be no more than 7 years. They should be forgiven on the 7th year. Okay. They've taken mortgages, made them to 30-year notes, 40-year notes. You can buy a car on a 7-year mortgage now, 2nd-year note, 7-year note now. Student loans. They've enslaved all of the world with finances, making them think they actually have to pay it back when they create it out of thin air. If something's created out of thin air, it has no value.
Right.
But what have they done? They hypnotically have had it made us believe that it's money. And then they throw an interest rate on it, which is double abuse, right? And so this is what they've done. So they basically, and when my example with $1 trillion in the U.S. population, you know, the JP Morgan, just an example, there are $55 trillion derivative contracts they have right now. Okay. That's just one bank. The total of one, someone did the math on it, was over $250 trillion. Do you understand those numbers? They're impossibilities to pay back to anybody. The numbers are insane. And because they create out of thin air, we should have a piece of, you know, that should be going to us. But what happens is it creates an imbalance. So back to your writing on the wall. Yeah. So the definition was God said to Belshazzar, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Meaning that you created such a separation in the balances of money that your kingdom has now come to an end.
Well, we're coming to that end here. We're coming to that end here on YouTube.
So this is a great place. So just to interrupt, we're going to come to, I'm going to talk about incredible points of time, dates that are coming, incredible things that we're going to talk about on Rumble. So I just wanted to start off with that, but we're heading into the Clash of the Titans. Continue.
Oh, I totally agree. And in terms of that imbalance, you were just talking about the derivative books at JP Morgan. But when you consider, thank you, Ida Louise, I appreciate those nice comments in the chat. Thank you, everyone. But when you talk about those derivatives, we have analysts looking out there that are suggesting that the over-the-counter derivatives worldwide could be in the quadrillions. Yeah. So talking about you've been balanced and you've been left wanting, there is a reckoning coming, and there is an accounting to be done for all of that crazy money printing and the theft of human energy through this matrix of control. That, I guess, guys, that's the most we can say here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me bring in the live chat now. Again, the link to our Rumble chat. If you guys want to come and join us there, we are going to continue this conversation with Mr. Polny. No holes barred. Let me remove the YouTube link now.